Hi, hello. This is what I look like when I don't have my mask on. You know what to do. Digital notebook, find your vocab section. I don't think you have to add in new rows, but if you do, you just right click and then insert row above or below to do so. Let's take some vocab notes. So the green terms you do not need to repeat, right? Intersectionality and unconscious bias, little overlap there between inquiry and English working together. So you are going to write down racism, classism, bootstrap theory, motif, and theme. But let's talk briefly first about racism and classism because you probably have heard these terms before, but I want them kind of defined in the context of this class. So all of the isms, we're only going to talk about these two, but when we talk about the isms, we're talking about systematic oppression. So for racism, we're talking about systematic oppression in which one racial group dominates over others. Racism encompasses economic, money, political, social, individual, and institutional actions and beliefs that perpetuate an unequal distribution of resources between white folks and people of color. And that's when we're really talking about racism. We're talking about systems of power and structures that marginalize, oppress, exclude, or leave out folks of color, or that include or over-resource white folks. So this might be a school policy, or this could be an individual action. We see Jade encounter a number of these things. Here's a quick visual here as well that might give you a few ideas. We've got internalized, interpersonal, institutional, and systemic. And you know from your own complicated, beautiful, messy lives that no one escapes these, right? Policies and individuals, these are things because we grow up in the society that we do with the history that we do that are inescapable. What is our work to do, though, is to see where can we see these? Where can we see these in our character? Where can we see these in our own life? Let's talk about classism next. Systematic, again, oppression of poor and working people by those who control resources, including jobs, wages, education, housing, food. We'll talk more about the concept of gatekeeping in the near future. But again, you're looking at power structures because you're looking at an ism here and you're looking at who is being upheld and resourced and who is being left out or marginalized or oppressed. So here's another quick visual I just wanted to show you. I know you've talked about cultural racism in inquiry class. This is a quick little chart with racism and classism in individual, cultural, and institutional examples, right? We've talked a bit about racism, so I want to talk briefly about classism here, right? So individual level, maybe there's a teacher punishing a student for not having their school supplies, but the student's family can't afford them. Cultural would be not an individual level, it would be a belief system, like that higher income parents are seen as somehow better parents. And then institutional classism would be like written into policies or procedures or codes or rules, like students whose families can afford expensive test prep scores generally score higher on the SAT and the ACT, giving them more options for college and scholarships. We're talking about interacting with not just one institution or one college, but a whole system that benefits that. That's a lot. But you know, of course, from your own messy, complicated life and from our work that we did last week and from the work that you have done in inquiry class, that all of this is interconnected and interrelated, and it's not like we see one person experience one type of ism and not another, or sometimes you benefit and sometimes you are hurt, right? Jade experienced both racism and classism through her time at St. Francis. I know this is a wheel that you've worked with in inquiry as well. Can you go ahead and take a moment and write down definitions, come up with related examples or images for racism and classism? All right, welcome back. Let's talk bootstrap theory. So we see a couple of characters start to embody that a little bit or say it. Particularly, I'm thinking about in Dear Martin, there's a scene early on where the character Jared really embodies bootstrap theory. And that is the idea that regardless of your position in life, through hard work, you can achieve prosperity in this country, that we're all men are created equal, right? It's kind of that line. You might have heard the idiom, talk about what that is at a later time, that you pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And to better explain bootstrap theory, I actually want to introduce you to an And
It's the idea that
count.
regardless of
Okay,
your
Joseph.
position in life, through hard work, you can achieve prosperity in this country. Now, I often hear it in response to people who are talking about feeling held back due to their identity or circumstance. In response to the harm someone's experiencing, bootstrap theory is offensive. At best, it fails to be meaningful for a few reasons. One, history matters. There are decisions that generations before us made that affect our present circumstance. Ain't nobody born with a blank slate. Two, policy matters. There are policies in place that make it difficult for some people to thrive where they're at. Three, others' perception of us matter, whether through fear, unconscious bias, or actual violence. There are people like our trans siblings that have to worry about being attacked and killed in the streets on the daily. Now, there are laws that try to help in these areas, but they're not always successful. And sometimes they're purposefully hindered from being successful by those who would rather protect what they have than consider the good of their neighbor. Folks hear this and they're like, life ain't fair, you gotta do what you gotta do. But what if instead we said, life ain't fair, let's do what we gotta do to make it more fair? Some of y'all get so up in arms because you pulled it out the mud. You fought and you fought for what you got, but my love, you shouldn't have had to. You overcame odds that were stacked against you. That's amazing. But don't romanticize struggle so much that you fail to see the ways that this country is letting people down.
All right, so that's Joseph Capehart. He is a writer, scholar, poet based out of Minneapolis. Strongly recommend. We'll see a few more videos that went quickly, but I want you to go ahead and write down our definition and our term for bootstrap theory, and think about if you could notice any examples of that coming up in a big, blatant way or a teeny tiny way within Piecing Me Together or within Dear Mermaid. All right, last but not least is motif and theme. So to explain the difference between a motif and a theme, I'll read the definitions, but I want to show you an image. So a motif is a repeated idea, image, or symbol that contributes to the development of a theme in a text. Think of it like a seed. A theme is a full-on central idea or message of a text. You can almost think about it like the moral of the story. A theme is applicable to you and to me and to that guy. It is not just applicable to the characters. What's the lesson that they're learning that we can also learn as well? So here's your picture, right? A motif is down here. Oftentimes it might be a topic, something like fear or friendship or love. It could also be a related image, like we see a lot of collages in Piecing Me Together. That could be a motif. We see York is a repeated image that comes up. A theme, though, would be not just the seed, but the full plant of this. Shana, you're going to know what I'm talking about. True bravery takes both fear and determination. So this is not just the topic. Let's say the motif is fear, but true bravery takes both fear and determination. That could apply to the characters, also to you, also to me. That's a full theme statement. We're going to do a lot more work with that. But can you go ahead and copy down our definition for theme and motif now? That's it. That's what I got. See ya.